good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 86 of Shochu'sday. Happy Shochu'sday from Japan. This is Pellegrini and Stephen Lyman here, as always, on Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. local time. And hopefully you have something interesting if in your glass while you're watching and listening along. And if you do, then drop a comment in the comment section, either on YouTube or Facebook, because we love to get the conversation going. Good morning, Stephen. How you doing?
Good morning, Christopher. I'm doing well. It got very cold in Fukuoka yesterday.
It was bad here too.
Yeah, I went to work in the morning and it was a little crisp, and then uh, when I was heading home in the afternoon, it was blustery and frigid. And I've ridden in wind before, but there were two or three times where I almost got blown off track, like legit. Like one time, I almost hit one of those posts. You know, they have those pedestrian protection posts that you. And if you're on a bicycle, you're riding between those posts when you're crossing an intersection. And I got blown just at that moment and almost ran into one of those posts. And another time, almost got pushed out into traffic. So a little treacherous on the way home. I think I will not be cycling this morning because it's about 30 degrees Celsius and 32 degrees Celsius.
Right? Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Sorry, Fahrenheit. You're right. Right. Sorry, I was doing the translation before I finished my first cup of coffee.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's about 2 degrees Celsius. So I guess it's 36, but it's windy. It's cold. Probably commute by subway today.
Not pleasant at all. No, it was same over here. I'm in Kagoshima, everyone. Heading back north this afternoon, but I have a couple of things to finish up today. And it's, other than the nastiness of yesterday's weather, it's been kind of nice, I guess. The wind is blowing the ash from Sakurajima out to the east, which is a good thing. But otherwise it's just a typical January morning in on the bay here. And before we get into the main event today, I think we need to. I don't know if there's any. Is there any booze news for today? What's going on? I feel like there is.
Yeah. I think there probably is too. I feel like there's always. I feel like there's always booze news.
Maybe we need to come back to this one. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's too many things happening at the moment. There's the one thing that's foremost and forefront in my mind is
I know that. You know what the booze news is? We don't like to talk about ourselves, but we were chosen part of the Imbibe 75. So that. Yeah. I remember when I think Jamie Graves was a 40 under 40, or maybe it was a 50 under 50 or something, and I was like, oh, that's cool, good for him. Jamie Graves is a friend of ours who runs the Japan portfolio for Skurnik Wines and Spirits in New York City. He's done some pretty amazing things in his career, both in hospitality and now in beverage alcohol sales and distribution. Really, really cool guy, good friend of ours. And he was chosen on one of those lists for his work that he'd done in sake. And I thought that was pretty awesome. And then suddenly we got the news that we have been chosen as part of the Imbibe 75, which I guess when you expand to 75 people, you can fit more people. But thanks to the early work with Honkaku Spirits.
They're all under the age of 75 years old.
Yeah, that's, when I turned 50, I was like, well, I guess I'm never going to get on one of those lists because nobody's going to do like a 60 under 60 or 70 under 70. Maybe it's 60 over 60 or something.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. But the Imbibe group is they're not, I guess they don't care about age. They're not ageist. So it's just the Imbibe 75. So 75 people in beverage alcohol to keep an eye out on. And I guess the work we've done on Shochu has been recognized, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little premature, but hey, I read through the list, and there's also a lot of bars or organizations on there. So it's people and places, and also things. I think there were some like cocktail trends or something in there as well, if memory serves. think I need to go back to the list again, but
so it's less. Yeah, I guess I should have read up on it, but I was just happy. I'm just trying to figure out how to put it into my Twitter profile.
Yeah, this is a new leaf for us in terms of
yeah.
Don't know how to respond to that.
No, it's nice, but like I said, we don't like to toot our own horns, so it's nice that somebody else is doing it for us for once. I guess this is only going to be in their print edition. It's not something that will be online, really? At least not immediately. So,
okay.
As I understand it, I may be.
Right. I don't know.
Maybe wrong about that. Cool. So, yeah, we didn't get the cover, but
no,
that's all right. Nobody
didn't get a photo either. And we didn't get. I don't think we got mention of Shochu'sday or Japan Distilled.
Yeah, well, I guess that gives them a reason for a future. Yeah, actually, I got the PDF.
Right about.
I guess we have a PDF version of it. I could share that.
Oh, okay.
If people are interested. Let me jump back to the top.
Figuring out how to share it. There's too many click-throughs on this thing.
So here's the Imbibe 75 liquid culture. The people and places that will shape the way you drink in 2022. Let's hope that's true.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you've got Christian Suzuki Orellana at Wild Hawk in San Francisco with his dog, I guess. But you've got, Honolulu's brewer, Simone Mitchelson, who I guess is doing wine. Yeah, winemaker. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So do you remember what page we're on?
No, I only looked at it briefly, but Angel Share, that's not the one in New York, though, I don't think.
No, that's a different one. That's one in Houston. Interesting. Yeah.
Where are we?
Down we go. Guess I could do a search, but
there we are.
Christopher Pellegrini and Stephen Lyman. And it kicks off with koji, Japan's most famous fungus, which serves as the base for soy sauce, miso paste, sake, and shochu.
And that's pretty
It's found its niche among American chefs over the past few years. I won't read the whole thing, but yeah, there we go. I thought that was pretty cool. We are listed as a couple. Maya asked if we're listed as a twosome. So of course we're joined at the hip, so we get dual billing. Of course, beauty before age in this case. So it's
yeah.
Yeah. So that was pleasant news, I thought.
Absolutely.
And along with that, I thought a shochu was chosen as the drink of the week by Imbibe. Was that Imbibe? Yeah, drink of the week.
Yeah.
So I could share that as well.
Cool. They chose something that's very near and dear to our hearts.
Oh no, sorry. I should have hidden. I said to block pop-ups while sharing screen, but apparently it's snuck in there. Cellophant Kokuto Shochu was chosen as Imbibe's drink of the week. And so we did get a shout out there as well for Honkaku Spirits. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I haven't read this one yet, so got some,
So but that's cool. Shochu gets an Imbibe in that way too. This is actually on the website, so we can drop this link in.
Oh, is it? Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't read that one.
So
nice.
See if that works. Yeah, there we go.
That did a
our booze news is usually not us focused, but this week it just happened to be. Not a bad way to start the year.
Hugely. Okay, now maybe what is our? Oh yeah, the main event. If I may be so bold.
Yeah, well, if you can hold off just a second, that Imbibe article was actually written by Emma Jansen, who she wrote The Way of the Cocktail with Julia Momose. the recently published cocktail book. And Emma actually came and visited Fukuoka just before the pandemic. In fact, on her Twitter, she had made a post a couple of weeks ago where she mentioned that she remembers riding through the Japanese countryside on the train or being around Japan, and it was flu season. It started. It was late 2019, and seeing people masked up. And she was like, "Wouldn't it be nice if Westerners or if Americans, would wear masks during flu seasons?" And that was pretty portentous on her part to have that thought at that time, because just a few months later, the world would upend and everybody, well, most people would be masking. So, yeah. But Emma was kind enough to talk with us a while back, and we didn't expect these kinds of accolades, but it was a nice little treat to wake up to these the other day. But shout out to her. We are planning to have her and Julia on the podcast to talk about their book. So watch out for that in future episodes. So anyway, sorry.
Do we have an episode coming out anytime soon?
Well, we did have an episode just came out 2 days ago.
There you go.
We do. Yep. New episode is malt versus koji. So we break down the production processes and what are the differences between malting and koji saccharification for spirits production, basically. Comparing Christopher with his beer brewing background can talk quite a bit about malting, and then I, as somebody who's made shochu over the last few years, talked about koji. And I think it was a fun conversation. I think we go a little bit deeper than in season 1. It was kind of scratching the surface. We were really trying to do a lot of 101 episodes, get people up to speed on these drinks generally. And now in season 2, I think we're gonna dig a little deeper and give people a little bit more granular information. So hopefully you enjoy that. It should be on or in your, if you subscribe, should be in your podcast feed currently.
Please subscribe.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. It was a fun episode it's always, I don't know. I enjoy reminiscing about my days on the brewing platform, and sometimes some weird information finds its way back to the front of my head. I think that this was definitely one of those cases, talking about malt again. But yeah, okay, cool. So that's actually a pretty thick booze news section. I think that's the most detailed one we've ever had.
And we started with the blank stare at each other, like, did anything happen?
What are we talking about today? Yeah, and I haven't had any coffee yet because I have to go and locate it. The main event today, as many of you will be aware, if you looked at the event, Shochu'sday number 86, Facebook or YouTube page, then you will have seen that we went to Nakamura Shuzojo in Kagoshima late last week, and as usual, it was great. I think we've both been there a dozen times, and every time we go, we learn something new. And I have a few photos that I can share from that experience, just because I know most of you have never been there before. You won't be able to go there for a while. So let me just share a PDF so that you can kind of visualize what I'm talking about here. So I think the most iconic part of Nakamura is this brick outside part. This is the part that everybody wants to take a photo of. Please pardon the power lines, and it's a really difficult shot to take because there's a damn retaining wall right across the street from the distillery. So you almost need a fisheye lens to really take it all in. But this, you can see the old smokestack, and then I think this is more of a warehouse than anything else on the inside of this brick portion of the distillery.
It's essentially a storage room at this point.
Yeah, but it historically has been and been important. So this is what everybody wants to take a photo in front of this part of the the distillery. And then inside, the first thing we saw were a couple of kurabito hand labeling gyokuro, which is, I guess the way to describe gyokuro is that it's Nakamura's entry brand, maybe. I guess it's a little bit cheaper than the main Nakamura brand. And as you can see, they line it up. It's really hard. It's a little hard to see here right now, but on the left, the guy you can see is positioning this little stick because they have to get they're not using machine. It's not done by sensors and things. They have to get that neck label at precisely the right height. So they put the stick right up under one of these ridges on the basically the bottom of the cap, and then that stretches down the neck, and then they put the top part of the label just at the bottom of that stick, and they do it every single one by hand, and you can see all the bottles behind them. I think they said they'd do about 600 bottles a day. I believe is what he
yeah, that's what he had said.
Yeah. And then we were walking around, and Shinya Nakamura, the Toji of the distillery, was talking about the quality of the year's sweet potato harvest in Kagoshima, which we know from prior episodes of Shochu'sday. As Stephen and I have discussed how everyone in Kagoshima had a really hard time with them, and to the point where some distilleries, because there were so few good sweet potatoes to make, ended the season with a huge surplus of koji rice that they had ordered. So, presenting other issues. They didn't have enough sweet potatoes to add to the secondary fermentation, and these are sweet potato shochu makers. They're not rice shochu makers. So it's just really tough all around. Much like Yamato Zakura, which Stephen talked about when he was working there, and shortly after, how they did only 60% of a year's normal production in terms of the number of days that they made koji. Shinya said something very similar. Basically, he was pretty much done in mid-December, I guess, which was it's surprising and it's disappointing, and orders are down. It's tough. But anyways, this is the koji muro. This is where the koji is made inside this brick structure within the building. The inside of this room is lined with cedar wood, and the only way you control the temperature is by opening a vent. And it's a typical handmade old school koji room. On the outside, you can see a little shrine there on the upper right, which they definitely view as a very important part of their operations. And in the middle is I think it's the original. I believe this is the original painting for the first amazing bottle. Shinya has this series of, I guess it's Genshu Amazing is the name of the line. And the first one featured this painting, which is called Still Life. So the brand itself is I think I haven't been able to get my hands on. I've checked a bunch of liquor shops in Kagoshima because I missed the opportunity to buy one of those 1,000 bottles, and they are gone. So if you find one, buy it.
Yeah, I did snag one.
You did get one?
I don't know if I think I might have actually contacted Shinya directly to order from the distillery.
Yeah, he said that he doesn't have any more, so it's like it's legitimately gone. So
yeah, it'll show up on secondary at some point, and you'll pay for it.
Yep, no kidding. So this is obviously where the koji is made. So a very important part of the distillery. Inside, it's, as I said, all cedar, and you've seen when we've toured Yamato Zakura in the past. And if you haven't seen that, you should go back and look at it, because the video of there is, there's actually, you can see what's going on in the koji mural, and it's inactive now, so we didn't go inside. We got to take a peek, but that was it. Wrong way. And then right next to the koji mural is the primary fermentation zone. These are all very, very old clay pots, hundreds of liters in terms of volume, and they're sunk into the floor for temperature regulation. And this is where the first week of fermentation about takes place, after which they are transferred into the secondary fermentation vats. Those are large stainless steel containers, and these steamed and shredded sweet potatoes are added to the secondary, and a couple of weeks of fermentation continues. I don't have any pictures of the secondary, but I do have a picture of the second bottle, and I'm holding a box of it here, which is known as Teardrop. And this is just, it's just so quirky and so weird. And I have a picture of Shinya holding the portrait. It's this gigantic,
the original painting.
The original, right? Yeah. And so I'm going to switch to that photo in a second. But I guess a little bit of a backstory here. Shinya has been, I think he got connected with this rather well-known artist named Urara Imai, and they're collaborating, and Ms. Imai is creating these they're kind of quirky. She has a very particular style, which you'll see in a moment. And I'm looking at the PDF right now. Stephen, are you showing your bottle? It's the Teardrop. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can show first.
Maybe stop the screen share for a moment. We can show the bottle, and then come back. I couldn't find my. I think my. I was looking for my bottle of Still Life earlier, but it was hidden somewhere in my storage. So this is the artwork. You can see it's actually a painting that's been printed on the label, and then that all of the relevant details about that year's bottling are on the side of that label. This is actually an unusual size. It's 550 milliliters.
That's really good.
37% alcohol. Again, of course, rice koji and sweet potato, satsuma imo, so Kagoshima grown sweet potatoes. And the amazing series he started last year, 2020, with Still Life, which was that artwork you saw on the wall of the Koji room. And this is the same artist doing the art for year 2, which is called Teardrop. And how they name these is he doesn't actually decide what to call the brand until he's made it and tasted it. And then he tells the artist the name. And then the artist goes and creates the concept for the artwork. And so it's a really interesting collaboration between this quite well-regarded artist, who I guess has sold paintings in the U.S. for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this tiny shochu distillery in Kagoshima, where, I mean, I say tiny. Shinya is still making about 3 times more shochu per batch as Tekkan, but that's still really, really small by modern production standards, because they do everything by hand. They're one of just a handful of all handmade shochu distilleries left in Japan. But Shinya just has a lot more labor available to help him make it, so you can make larger batches than Tekkan can. So yeah, it's a pretty cool label.
It's wild. So what we have here, just to go through this, you've got a koala, kind of. Well, I don't know. There's a sadness to it, but embracing,
there's a teardrop
lying on. There's a teardrop lying on a sweet potato that is perched or nestled in a puddle of yogurt. And then to top it all off, because we don't want the koala to be lonely, there's a honey bear observing. It's just interesting. I thought the yogurt was a dish or something. I think most people
it looks like a plate.
Do. Yeah, it's like a plate. It's actually yogurt, and it's supposed to represent the kind of the dairy-like quality of the shochu, which is completely 100% wild yeast. So it's a natural fermentation, and also there's no, obviously, as is true with all honkaku shochu, there's no additives, and it's almost unfiltered. Basically, they just did the normal oil blotting and removal from the top, and it says it's made with Jukusei Beni Haruka, which was organically harvested. So, yeah, and the koji is also it's a double natural fermentation. So the koji's from within the distillery, from within the koji muro, and so is the yeast. So it must be a pretty scary thing to undertake, just because you don't really know how it's going to end up. But it's delicious.
I remember a few years ago, I visited Shinya at Nakamura Distillery, and he was like really, really excited. He's an infectious personality guy. Anyways, very, very smiley and happy guy. And he's like, come here. And he takes me into the koji room, and he's mounted these koji boxes up near the ceiling on these little almost rails. It's like the little almost IKEA shelves that are just tiny little shelf up on the railing. And he had several of these positioned around the room. And I was like, that's interesting. What are you doing? He's like, I'm making koji. Like I'm not propagating koji on steamed rice and letting it run for 2 days and then using that for my fermentation. I've put steamed rice up in those trays, and I'm leaving it as I make koji. And so the koji was naturally getting from those other trays, getting up into those trays, and he's just letting it run. And he was basically creating his own sort of koji mother, which is now and he was like, but you can't tell anybody. This is a secret.
Yep. I had the same experience.
Yeah. And I can tell people now, you can tell people now, because he's now started to release these brands that are made with that house-grown koji, which is a very, very uncommon thing. He's probably the only person in Kagoshima doing that. Maybe the only person in Kyushu that we're aware of. But like you have talked before about down in the Tokyo Islands, that there's some
that's more
some wild koji production, but it's not something you commonly come across in Kyushu or in Kagoshima.
No, it's so unpredictable, right?
Yep.
And also the completely wild fermentation, so the wild yeast, and just hoping that you get the right one in there.
Yeah. And he's using aged sweet potatoes, right?
Yeah.
Which is aged organic sweet potatoes. So yeah. But that's also probably why there's only 1,000 bottles available. But anyway, so we were able to.
Yeah. So Teardrop, I think the volume of production went up a little bit for this one, because he had a lot of unhappy fans with Still Life, because so many people couldn't get it. And so I mean, he didn't actually number these like he did.
He didn't.
With this Still
information
Life
on the box.
Yep. But
it has the artist name, cool. Lala Imai.
Yep. Let me share that last photo. Am I still?
Yeah, that's a great photo.
Oh wait, I can just add it back. Oh, great. Okay, so last photo is the actual art, but before it went on the label. Look how big that thing is.
Yeah, it's like at least twice the size of the year one painting, the Still Life painting.
Yep, and it was really fascinating to. He had images of how they went through the whole, how she kind of does her work process, and he described it to her, and then she set up this little scenario with she had a little stuffed koala, and she put it on a sweet potato, and then he gave her feedback, and then she adjusted the little scenario, and then she painted that, and it's remarkably similar. This painting is very similar to the photo. It was impressive how the shadows and the shades and everything are very faithful to the photo, to the little scenario that she had set up. It's just wild. Yeah. I like it. I have to admit that I wasn't a huge fan when I first saw it. It's like, what is going on? But once you hear the story, it's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it's an absolutely adorable painting when she spends some time looking at it. And there is really this sadness to it. She really captures, I mean, these are basically inanimate objects, and yet she captures this teardrop sense, right? This little touch of sadness. And I'm not sure why that's the name he came up with for the brand. for this year's bottling, but yeah, the artwork's a lot of fun. And I guess all he really did was gave her the name and sent her a box of sweet potatoes to work with. And then she kind of came up with the, and he told her the tasting notes, right? You know, a little bit of lactic, a little bit of this, little honeyed sweetness. And, you know, some of it might feel a little bit on the nose, and yet lacking that backstory, you're just like, this is weird.
Especially when you realize that's the yogurt under the sweet potato. Like,
yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Bless him.
Cool. So if we can just talk maybe a little bit more about Nakamura before we move on to
final.
Okay, cool. What I wanted to do actually is share with people. I was really struck by, this is actually a conversation we had with a friend of yours, is their branding for their main brand. This is Nakamura. This is, you know, shochu labels can kind of blend together. And you sort of, it's hard sometimes to distinguish between one brand or another. A lot of the brands from Kagoshima have the word Satsuma in the name. And so even for Japanese people, wait, which Satsuma is that? There's like 40 of them that I've tried before or seen on shelves before. And the labels are often they're more classic. They're more like, sorry, I should have been better prepared. Where's that bottle? Yeah. They have more this sort of feel, right? But they all sort of use these vibrant colors, and they're, you know, so they really do tend to blend together. And what makes this branding so fantastic is that's Nakamura, but in hiragana. And it's beautiful calligraphy, but it's really, really simple to read, and it's really striking and memorable on a shelf.
Yep.
And so even for me, as somebody who didn't really read or couldn't read any Japanese when I first started visiting Japan, this label became recognizable. And once I realized that it was Shinya's shochu, then it became my default to order. Just because I knew who made it and I knew what it was. And that's just the power of branding. I think even in Japan, for Japanese people, there's that sense of how important that is and how you can really separate yourself from the pack. Because in the time that we've known him, Shinya's gone from, well, he was a kurabito when we met him, right? He was assistant to the Toji, and the Toji retired. But Shinya learned a lot from him. And for those of you who remember if you'd seen any of my older presentations, I have a picture of this old man pushing this heavy piece of equipment across the distillery floor to get it out of the way so that the younger kurabito, the younger staff, can clean the floor. That was the Toji. That was the Toji of Nakamura Distillery when I first visited, and Shinya's mentor. But Shinya's now taken over, and obviously he's gone his own way. He's been very creative with these new brands, but with his old brands, he's really been able to separate himself, I think, through some of that branding. And Nakamura is now a very, very highly sought after sweet potato shochu. I think much more even than when we met him.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, the price has gone up. I think he's recognized it. It's now one of the more expensive, relatively easy to find sweet potato shochu brands. I think I paid close to 3,000 yen for that bottle when I found it the other day for the Ishobi, which is quite a bit more than a standard Ishobi of sweet potato shochu. I mean, by Japanese standards.
It's still underpriced.
Yeah, sure. That's because that's about $27 US.
Yeah.
For 1.8 liters of handmade sweet potato shochu. So they'll get there. They'll figure it out, and then people will be like, "Why is it so expensive?"
Yeah, finally. Yeah, there are bargains galore out there, folks, in terms of how underpriced some of these things are, and how much effort goes into crafting them. They're being paid a pittance. That needs to change. But it was another good meeting at Nakamura Shuzojo, and definitely a place that you should try to visit if you're ever once you're able to come to Japan. Nakamura is over near. Oh, yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
No, please finish your thought.
It's over near Kokubu station on the local train line going north from Kagoshima City. Basically, north end of Kagoshima Bay, and then it's about a 15-minute taxi ride from the train station. A little bit of a jaunt from the station, so you wouldn't want to try to walk it. I don't think it would take you a couple days.
Yep. Depends on how fast you walk. But just a quick comment on teardrop. For those of you that are in Japan, Kosedo Saketen in Kagoshima City still had this available when I was there this past weekend. 6,800 yen. So just this 550 milliliter bottle is more than twice the Ishobin of the standard brand. It's also 37% alcohol, but and with that wild production process, and I think they take orders over the phone, don't they?
Or by fax.
Never tried it. Yeah, probably. So there are still bottles of that available for those of you here in Japan. Cool.
Sweetness.
Yeah.
Good. Good. I'm glad we did another distillery profile.
Yeah, I think we should probably do that. We've got several distilleries we've got pictures of. I like your idea of putting together that slideshow and just running through a few pictures of the facility, giving a sense of place. You can definitely put those together for future Shochu'sday.
Yep, absolutely.
What do we got? Right. Newly open?
Yeah, see, I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot with this.
Got a
what do you
bottle
have?
of OS1?
Yeah,
I have. Well, I did finally crack the 2021 Komagatake.
Oh, nice.
Limited edition.
How is it?
It's not bad. I think I like the 2020 a little bit better. So they always change the color of this banner here, so that's how you can easily differentiate between each vintage. Last year was blue. This year's pink. 2019 I think was green. But it's a solid whiskey. This is from Mars. This is made at the Komagatake distillery the Shinshu distillery up in Nagano. Mm-hmm. They also have a distillery down in Tsunuki and Kagoshima. And I think they just released their Tsunuki 2021 as well. I just saw that on social media. But I had baked an apple pie recently, and so I do like a little bit of nip of whiskey with my apple pie. So I decided that was not one serving. I opened it a few days ago, and I've had a couple slices of apple pie. But yeah, no, it's nice. It's I think certainly worth picking up. This one is 48% alcohol. Last year's the 2020 was 50%. So they vary that as well. But I think last year's had a little bit more. I believe it was 10 or 15,000 bottles.
Okay. So
it says 2021 edition, not necessarily limited edition, because that's still a lot of bottles. But I believe it was 10 or 15. At least it was in 2020.
Yeah, this is Maya's comment.
The 2022 comes out next week. Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Good luck.
Yep, sure. I've slowed down on my Japanese whiskey acquisitions recently because I realize I have so much stock now that I not sure I need to keep buying new bottles of it if I'm not going to drink them. I'm just going to fill my closet with collector bottles, and that's not really my intention. I want to enjoy these things and share them with people and that sort of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you.
The trouble is I keep acquiring bottles of all sorts of things. I mean, I went to Kosedo to see whether or not they had the teardrop, and they did. And I also walked out with a few new Japanese gins that I hadn't seen before, just because.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, some of our friends have made gin, so we should try them.
Everybody's making gin. Everybody's making gin.
That's right. So.
And rum is next.
Yep. So we that's my newly open, and I guess you get a pass this week since all of your newly opens you were out enjoying, like at Maya's place, Roku.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little shochu / wine bar in Tenmonkan. So anything else on your mind?
No, I think that's it. I think we did another packed episode of Shochu'sday, so I think we can probably adjourn right there. Once again, if you do listen to podcasts, then please go listen to the most recent episode of Japan Distilled and rate and subscribe. I don't know I think there's 3 verbs I'm supposed to put there together, but it really is helpful for us, and we feel like eventually once that podcast reaches enough listeners, it's going to be a resource for some time to come, or that's what we hope it will be.
Yeah, I mean, we did get good news. Rich let us know that I think we're in the 10th percentile, I mean the top 10th percentile of podcasts as far as engagement. So that's not bad. I mean, there's
for the first year,
I think millions of podcasts. So
we're in good company, I'm sure.
Yeah, this was episode 1 of season 2, episode 27. I'm not sure we're going to do a full 26 episodes in season 2. I think we might do 25. Give ourselves a little bit of a break. 25 episodes seems like a lot for a year.
It's plenty.
It's just because we're not really a news podcast. It's not like current events. This is,
every single episode takes quite a bit of consideration. So
yeah. So might slow down a little bit, but yeah. But still really enjoy doing the podcast. So I'm glad it's continuing, and these are fun too.
Yeah. So thank you everyone out there all around the world for joining us for another week of Shochu'sday. Please keep kampai all around, hugs all around, stay happy and healthy, keep smiling. And we'll be back again next week, next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Japan time, and some other, hopefully not middle of the night time, wherever you happen to be. From both of us here in Japan to all of you out there, a very hearty and heartfelt kampai.
Kampai.